We'll begin with Nicole, and the question is, Minnesota has had a budget surplus for many consecutive years. If surpluses continue, would you support reducing taxes, or do you believe surplus revenue is an opportunity to invest more in government programs?
So I don't believe that this is an either or. I think we need to address part of the reason that we have a surplus right now is that, especially on the Senate side, there hasn't been compromise on some of the budget issues. So in the last year, for example, and actually for several years now, public education has been underfunded. Infrastructure has been underfunded. Police raises have been underfunded. So we need to be using those tax dollars for what they were intended for, which is investing in Minnesota, in our communities, and the things that make us work. So once we get past that and look at realistically what that budget needs to be, then yes, I believe that especially for struggling families, we need to give those tax breaks where they make sense, but also do things that will help people keep more money in their pocket at the end of the day. So for example, making healthcare even more affordable, which we've done over the last number of years, also continuing to work to reduce prescription costs. Childcare. I'm a single parent. I have, with my foster children, 3 children, 5 and under. So I can tell you how hard this is on our workforce. So we need to not only get more providers out there, but also give tax credits so that people can afford to have children and also work and not have to make the choice of either or. So I think we kind of need to look at that budget in terms of funding the things that haven't been getting funded, and then looking at where we can actually help working families, which also helps our businesses, because then it makes for a stronger workforce.
Thank you. Bob?
So, yeah, we've got, I think it's a little north of $13 billion right now that we're sitting on. So that's much better than to being in the hole. I would like to see us reduce both the income and corporate taxes at a reasonable level. Put more money, in personal income tax, people are struggling right now with inflation. And so to put a little bit of money back in their pocket right now would be helpful. The corporate income tax has a long game effect. I do want to see us put a good amount of money away for a rainy day. Running a company, the first person you should pay is yourself, being the company itself, and hold on to money so that you can weather the storm. And then we got to be careful about what we spend money on. So certainly infrastructure, I've talked about this before. We have from roads, bridges, water systems, we've got an aging infrastructure that needs to be addressed. And it also creates some really good jobs. So we need to spend money on that. We need to spend money on education. I'm all for spending money on education as long as that money's being used well. We've spent $13,500 per pupil right now, and our numbers are terrible, right? The numbers that we're seeing for these kids are not good. So throwing more money at a problem is not the answer. We need to address why they're not doing well, and if the money's not going to the right place, then let's shift the money.
Thank you, Bob. Amanda?
Thank you for the question. So I really believe that our budget is a reflection of our values. And kind of like Nicole highlighted, it is about balance. We need to make sure we're being strategic, and we need to make sure that we're thinking ahead. We do know that there have been some things that have been historically not funded, so that we've been committed to, so we need to make sure we honor those. The two big ones we've all talked about are infrastructure and education. However, with the surplus, it does also allow us an opportunity to catch up. An example there is special education funding. We've been lacking. We know that children and teachers and mental health workers in schools need more support, and this is a great opportunity to help with that. If we make investments now, we can avoid higher costs in the future. Example is paid family medical leave. I've had the opportunity to be in a legislative briefing meeting with the Main Street Alliance, which is an organization of small businesses, hearing their stories about how paid family medical leave would really help them as business owners and help their workers. And a surplus is an opportunity for us to set us up for future success. Nicole mentioned childcare is a huge, huge concern. I'm the mom of 2 little girls. Childcare is really difficult sometimes to piece together. And when you think about it, our childcare workers are the workforce behind the workforce. So many women and parents had to leave the workforce to COVID, and we need to get those people back in. And as a legislator, I would ensure that I work to get the bills passed to allocate the surplus as well as other budgetary items.
Thank you. Kelly?
Thank you. I want to mention that there was, the budget was passed this year, so there was consensus among all parties. A budget of $51.7 million was signed into law by our governor. Regarding the surplus, we do need to be judicious. There was an agreement that of some for investment, some to give in tax cuts to offer relief for people, and then some for the rainy day fund. The tax bill can only start in the House. The Senate did their job. A tax bill was never sent. I believe that we do need to do some strategic, make some strategic investments where needed. For example, bonding. Bonding is a jobs bill, and we need to look at what we're going to do in the way of bonding. But we definitely need to offer permanent tax cuts to help people fight inflation, and especially those being squeezed the hardest right now, those on a fixed income in the way of our senior citizens. Their Social Security is taxed. That was one of the deals that was agreed upon initially by the governor, by the House Majority Leader, and by the Senate President, was relieve the tax on Social Security. We're one of few states that does that. And then finally, we do need to make sure we set some aside for the rainy day fund. And that's where I stand.
Thank you, Kelly. So for the next question, 2 minutes again. What is your view?
Can I answer that
Do
one,
I?
please?
You know what?
Yeah.
I buzzed right past you.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm going to bring a different perspective. Kelly just gave a lot of the good facts behind this, so I'm not going to reiterate this. But whose money is this? It's the taxpayers' money. We should not be dreaming up new way to spend this money, okay? That money needs to go back to the people who paid it. And the way to do that is through slow and steady tax breaks. I have a starting point. How about 1% off of each of the brackets, right? That might be a good way. The 4 tax brackets that we have, that might be a great starting point that Democrats and Republicans can agree to, or a good point to go from. But we should not be thinking of spending more money right now when a CNBC report just out says that 60% of our fellow citizens are living paycheck to paycheck. They need the money. Let's give it back.
Thank you, Dwight.
You're welcome.
Next question, 2 minutes. What is your view of Minnesota's economy and business competitiveness? Bob, we'll start with you.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So we've come out of a very unique situation over the past couple of years. We had a very robust economy in 2019, took a hit in 20, took a big hit in 21, started coming back, and things are rolling okay right now. But again, I'm gonna pick on the tax situation. Our economy, we can't do a whole lot about inflation at the level of the state. So I look at it, our goal is to keep jobs here and attract companies to come here and entice people to start up their own businesses, to foster entrepreneurs. As far as attracting people, and especially in an environment today where people can work from almost anywhere, unless you're a plumber, and you're stuck coming in. But people have options. So if they have an option to go to a state that has the 6th highest income tax, or a state that has something lower, they can make that choice. So we need to do some things at the state level that make us more competitive. That also ties in with crime. When I talk to business owners all over the Twin Cities, their employees are concerned about coming to work in many areas. So that's not a real attraction for a company to come here. And then Minnesota has a very high regulatory environment. So we can probably ease up on that a little bit to attract some other businesses.
Thank you, Bob. Amanda?
Thank you. So Minnesota's home to 16 Fortune 500 companies, and it's a very diverse portfolio from healthcare to retail to technology and innovation. I find it very exciting to be in Woodbury specifically because I see lots of businesses opening up, especially minority-owned. And so I feel that the Minnesota business economy is competitive. We do have a low unemployment rate. However, I know that that might not feel that way or be representative of everywhere across the state. I have seen workforce and work site changes in my own job. I was sent home to do 100% telework during COVID. Fortunately, I was able to keep my job and do that. But now coming back, my work site is exploring how do we do hybrid? How do we bring people back to the office? I know we are decreasing our carbon footprint because we're getting rid of business space and office space. But then when I take a step back, how does that affect the downtown St. Paul business environment, for example? So using that lens, using my experience, listening to the experiences of others, thinking about how things could be affecting us, but then how they affect things down the line, I would like to work together to continue to keep Minnesota, keep South Maplewood, keep Woodbury a very competitive place for people to work and live.
Thank you. Kelly?
Thanks. You know, when you asked this question, I just thought to myself, I love supporting local-owned business right here in our community. And I see everywhere help wanted signs. I see now hiring. I see please be patient and thank those who showed up for work today. And historically, Minnesota has had a well-educated, productive, and bountiful workforce, which has been the reason why so many companies locate to our state. However, I am concerned about the future. As an outcome of the pandemic, employees can work outside of the office, they can work outside of our communities, and even outside of our state. Our workforce size is dwindling or stagnant at best. Additionally, surrounding states have or will be significantly lowering their taxes on businesses and personal income. I fear that Minnesota will become a cold island in the middle of the country if we don't act now. I would propose lower taxes, incentives to train current underemployed citizens, as well as attract new employees to our state. Yes, we came out of the pandemic strong because of our talented workforce and incredible business acumen. But the headwinds for our businesses are growing stronger each day we stay at the status quo. Tax reform and job skills training can help restore our reputation as the destination for good jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Dwight?
Yes.
What is your view of Minnesota's economy and business competitiveness?
My view is that everybody answers the question before you get to me. I can't just say ditto either, can I? So I feel that Minnesota in the past has done an amazing job with businesses. We see it all around us. Somebody mentioned all the different Fortune 500 companies. I think that's great. But I think we're on a bad trajectory right now. We have the second highest corporate tax right now, and in 2 years, it's going to be the highest in the whole nation. And you wonder, most of the other ones are on the coast, right? So East Coast, West Coast. So how is Minnesota going to compete here in the Midwest with our neighbors? Kelly mentioned the tax on Social Security. one of 12 states that taxes our Social Security benefits. That should not be a partisan issue. We can definitely help workers out and retired people out, our seniors especially, by repealing that along with the other 38 states. Individual income taxes, Bob said, were the 6th highest. Perfect time with a $12 billion surplus to cut 1% from each tax bracket. That would give roughly 20% more money in people's pockets at the lowest income level and a little less than 10% at the highest level. Our job growth is lagging the national average right now for 9 of the last 10 years in Minnesota. That's not the Minnesota we grew up in. And we're losing population to other states, and now even neighbors such as Iowa are reducing their corporate tax to 5.5%. Ladies and gentlemen, we're set up badly right now. We need to change that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwight. Nicole?
So to get back to the original question, it was the view of the economy and how is our competitiveness. Minnesota consistently is ranked, and methodologies vary, but both for our business climate and our economy, 15th in the country or better in any survey you look at. And we have historically low unemployment right now. So the gloom and doom on our economy, we're coming out of a pandemic. We have things we need to work at to get people back to work, like we've mentioned with the childcare issue. But Minnesota does have a very strong economy. We just need to continue to invest in it. And one of the things I think we need to do is look at, it's great when we have these big companies come into Minnesota, but we really need to make it easier for the small companies to be competitive. And one example I would give on that is I was one of the people, I have a foster baby who's a year old now, but came to me fat and happy now, but 2 months premature, specialty formula. I was one of those people over the winter going store to store to store, desperate to find formula because 2 companies had the market on it. And so when one went down, we had a crisis. When we have more competitiveness, we have a better supply chain, we have more opportunities, and small businesses are more likely to invest back in their communities. So I think we make sure that those small companies can be competitive by things like the free marketplace healthcare plans, so that if they can't offer healthcare, there's opportunities, paid sick time off, so that workers don't have to come to work sick. And as I said, things like supporting more daycare opportunities, so more of the people can get back to work. I think those are some of the ways that we support our different small businesses.
Thank you, Nicole. So for the next question, we'll have 2 minutes again. So we'll start with Amanda. For the last several years, there have been proposals at the Minnesota legislature to mandate paid leave and other workplace benefits. Do you believe the state should play a role when it comes to private sector workplace benefits and wages? Please explain.
Thank you for the question. Yes, I would support state-sponsored paid family medical leave, universal health care, and better access to childcare. I actually worked with my union back in 2014. Small world, I actually got to meet Kelly Fenton, who she was my then representative, to talk about paid parental leave back then. And it was a great bill, and she was able to co-author on it to get paid parental leave for all state workers so that they could have time to take care of themselves and their new child upon that occurrence. I believe that all Minnesotans should have that opportunity, not only to take care of a new child, but to take care of themselves and their family members when they're sick. We need to make sure that we can take care of people's basic needs so that they can stay in the workforce. Like I mentioned, the COVID-19 pandemic forced a lot of women to leave the workforce due to lack of childcare or because they got sick. So again, if we can have a strong, supported workforce, and I keep thinking about my dad too, because had all of us kids been home, it would have been really hard for him to keep his business going if he had to stay home with us. So making sure that business owners are able to take part, to take care of themselves when they are sick, and not have to worry about what's going to happen to their business down the line, I think would be a great way to make sure that the state can take care of themselves, so families can take care of themselves, and businesses can take care of themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Kelly?
Thanks. You know, I think of my son again when I think of this, because he actually turned a job down that offered more money because the benefits were not what he wanted. And he was able to go back and negotiate that with his employer and come out better on the end. But I believe the state can provide incentives and authorize new products to help small businesses provide paid leave and other benefits. After 2 years of closures, you know, years of pandemic closures, inflation, supply chain shortages, the last thing small businesses need right now are more mandates on them. You know, and the employers in the state of Minnesota know best and know that their best and most important asset are the reliable, hardworking, and talented workforce. But due to substantial job availability, high workforce participation, and workforce shortages affecting almost every industry across the state, the employers are already offering enhanced salaries, benefits, flexible work schedules, customized training, tuition assistance, childcare assistance, signing bonuses, everything they can to attract the top talent to their company. And as we get in more demand, you're going to see businesses offer what they can regardless. Like Delta announced that they're doing a paid family leave all on their own without a government mandate. But the bottom line is businesses have developed practices and benefits specifically tailored to account for economic and workforce issues in a way that works for them themselves, their operations, in their locations, and importantly, that takes care of their employees because they want to retain them. So doing a state mandate, something that mandates a one-size-fits-all, will absolutely disrupt the benefit arrangements that companies are already making with their employees.
Thank you, Kelly. Dwight?
Yeah, hi. So Kelly once again hit all the high points here. There should not be a mandate. You know, the Minnesota Constitution mandates, first of all, public safety for its citizens, right? That's Article 1, Section 1 of our Constitution. Article 8 mandates that we fully fund public education. So that's Article 8. There's no article to force employers to do benefits mandates. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's right. And especially today, when, as Kelly said, all these different companies are offering all sorts of incentives, it's a worker's paradise right now. You can find the job. If you don't like your job, somebody else is offering you some better benefits right now. So I would take people up on that. I would shy away from going down these rabbit holes because we have a lot of mandates for a lot of things, and the more we add to that, the more tax burden that's going to fall on all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwight. Nicole?
So I do believe that government has a role in this. You know, if we just think historically, why do we have OSHA? Because not all workplaces had the safety measures in place. Why do we have child work laws? Because there used to be companies that would use child labor, and there probably still would be some today if, you know, regulations didn't exist at all. So, and I've been in the corporate world for 30 years. I have worked for companies that did the right thing, and I have worked with companies that kind of gamed the system and would have 2 employees part-time instead of 1 full-time, even though they could afford benefits, they just didn't want to pay them, things like that. So I do think there is value in the government making sure that there is more of an even playing field, because even though right now companies might be scrambling for workers and so they've upped the benefits, that doesn't mean that's how that's always going to be. And there's also a value to the companies themselves. So if we had paid sick leave, for example, you're much less likely to have workers coming in sick, getting other workers sick, possibly getting employees sick or customers sick. That unnecessarily hurts business. So we've found in places that we have expanded healthcare and we've had some of these programs, it doesn't hurt the businesses. It often benefits them in the long run. And if everyone's asked to be doing that same thing, letting workers have a break if they're sick, for example, then everyone has that same level playing field, and you're also helping the employees at the same time. I'm a guard commander right now, and I have found as a boss that when you treat your employees well, they're more loyal, they'll work harder for you. And I think a lot of the things that we're proposing treat the employees well in a way that they have more choices as to where they're gonna go.
Thank you, Nicole. Bob?
I got cleanup duty, Dwight.
Yeah.
So, paid leave, universal health care, paid leave for a business owner, childcare. These all sound really good, right? There's no doubt about it. Those would be great things that we all just had. The thing that we have to remember is that somehow we got to pay for all this. Okay, so that means we're talking about an environment already that isn't real economically friendly. As a matter of fact, the report I have ranks Minnesota, their economic performance today 23rd, and the projections 46th. So if we start to add additional taxes, that's going to come out of all of our pockets. And then the businesses are going to have to increase their prices, right? There's some way they got to get the money. Businesses, I've been a business owner for 20 years. I take really good care of my people. When they're sick, they get paid. If they've got a sick parent, child, I've had an unbelievable amount of multitude of things that have come up that I just take care of them, because to Nicole's point, that's what you do as a business owner, and that's what you do when you have a family that you work with. The government is not real good at implementing big procedures, okay? So if we take the unemployment insurance, I can't tell you how many times I had people that quit on me and then they filed for unemployment. And then you get a letter, it says you have X amount of days to respond. I'd respond. Sometimes I'd win, sometimes I'd lose. If I laid them off, I owe them unemployment. But if they don't show up or they quit, that's not the way the system's supposed to work. It's very hard to process all this from a government standpoint. The business owner is much more equipped to take care of that and provide the benefits to their people.
Thank you, Bob. So now we'll move to closing statements, and you'll have 3 minutes for the closing statements. Each of you will now be allowed to present your closing statements. You may have up to 3 minutes to leave us with a lasting impression. Kelly, we'll start with you.
Thank you very much. Again, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the audience for taking the time to show up, and thank you again to the Chamber for hosting this forum. I'm Kelly Fenton, and I'm the only candidate in this race who has proven leadership of working on all sides of the aisle for what is best for everyone, and supported by business, law enforcement, trades, care providers, and farm. But most importantly, I will work for you. We need representation for the majority in the middle. I will work for common sense solutions that puts more money back into your pockets and in the Social Security tax for our seniors. I will support tougher penalties for repeat and violent criminals. I'll work hard to make sure that Woodbury is the best place to live, work, and raise a family. Once again, I'm Kelly Fenton, and I ask for your vote for state representative on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Dwight.
Yes, so thank you all for being here tonight. I see some awesome faces out there. Some of you may not even know I know you, so. Hey, it's been my pleasure to be here. Thank you to the Woodbury Area Council for putting this on. I've been around in your neighborhood this summer. I've knocked on your doors or your neighbors' doors. I've talked to hundreds of you, and you've told me that crime and the economy and education are your concerns, as I stated at the beginning. I want you to know that that is the core of why I'm running. There are a lot of other important issues out there, and we talked about several of them tonight. We touched on many related to business. Our last debate, we talked in a wide variety of issues, but those are your top three, and I'm listening, and I'm coming to help. Please vote for me November 8th, and have a great night. God bless you all.
Thank you, Dwight. Nicole?
Hi again, I'm Nicole Mitchell, also running for state senate. And again, as I said at the beginning, I'm the only person that actually grew up in this community, has lived here for more than a few years, and has connections with a lot of our businesses, our city, our county members. And I want to work collaboratively to really make sure our community and our entire state is able to thrive. I've been door knocking too, and what I've been hearing has been things like making sure education includes all of our kids, including special needs kids like my foster son. Making sure that for our next generation, we've protected our environment with clean air and clean water and mitigating climate change. And a lot of those things also contribute to our economy. When we invest in some of that green energy, when we make our buildings more efficient. I'm also widely labor endorsed, and I think there's a big synergy between having a strong labor force that we have supported with good wages, access to childcare, access to health care, so that they are ready to go and work. And then that supports our businesses as well. So I want to take some of those values of investing in all of our community members and lifting us up to make sure we continue to have a Minnesota and a community that we can all be proud of. Thank you for your time here today. If you want any more information on me, my website is nicolemitchell.org, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Nicole. Bob?
Thank you. Thanks again to the chamber. Mark, you did an outstanding job. Thanks for all these folks coming out. I first had an idea that I might want to get involved in politics or in government when I had my office on Grand Avenue. And when the riots came through, and I realized the power and the importance of local government, specifically city councils, state, local legislature. So that's how I first got involved. What I'm mostly concerned about, and what I'm hearing is people are very concerned about the increase in crime. People that have lived in our neighborhoods for 30, 40 years that never really worried about keeping a garage door open or going to the store. That's on their mind now. They're worried about the economy, and they're also worried about education. And really the economy piece, since we're at a chamber event, is driven by these other two, right? The answer to reducing crime is not just arresting a bunch of people and locking them up. We've got a lot of juveniles, it's actually not a lot. We've got about 80 juveniles that are stealing a bunch of cars in the Twin Cities. And right now, Totem Town shut down because nobody was going there, so there's no attempt at rehabilitation. I went out and visited with Reverend Tim Christopher out in North Minneapolis 2 Saturdays ago. And I toured around the North Minneapolis for a couple hours, and we went to Merwin Liquor, and we went to Winter Gas, and we went to the North End Homeless Encampment. And I'm listening to a gentleman that is working his butt off to try and help the community. Because what happens in that community affects us, right? This is a state thing. This isn't just about Woodbury and South Maplewood. And they're turning out kids from North High School that can't read. So if they can't read, there's not a lot of jobs in North Minneapolis, and they don't have any direction, they're turning to crime. And I think what we need to do is a multi-pronged approach, and we need to get some programs for these youth to be involved in young so that they don't become part of the system. And it's even a good ROI for a conservative person to look at, because the money that we spend on housing people in jail and prison, and then the property damage and the victim damage that it costs, far outweighs any money that we could put in to help them when they're young. So if we take care of those kids, we get some good workers, helps the economy, reduces crime. seems like a nice circle to take care of people. So I'm Bob Lawrence. I'm running for House, and we're really fortunate that we've got a bunch of good candidates up here. You can't make a bad decision. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Amanda?
Thank you. So first, I would just like to thank Lori and the Woodbury Chamber for hosting this event. Thank you, Mark, for moderating. Thank you to the audience here live in person and to the audience who may be watching online later. We've all experienced or we've all seen through the help wanted signs that workers have more choices nowadays. And I would like to be a partner to keep small and local businesses competitive and let you focus on running your business. Increasing access to affordable health care, increasing access to childcare, and increasing access to paid family medical leave are all ways we can do that. They're supported by the Main Street Alliance because this will lead to better business stability and allow a business owner the ability to pivot easier to maybe come up with some temporary solutions while those things are occurring. I want to truly represent and advocate for everyone in South Maplewood and Woodbury. I have the analytical thinking. I used to be a laboratory geneticist for private healthcare. I moved to be a forensic scientist at the crime lab, so I've worked adjacent with law enforcement, and now I'm a legislative analyst. So I have the professional experience as well to thoroughly evaluate and create comprehensive and effective policies. I'm a collaborative person who listens to understand, I gather multiple perspectives, and I intentionally engage with people and organizations in the community to ensure that people are at the center of policy decisions. My name's Amanda Hemmingson-Yeager. I'm running for the Minnesota House, District 47A. I invite you to follow me on social media. Check out my website, amandaformnhouse.com. Early voting has already started, and Election Day is November 8th. I look forward to earning your vote and representing you at the state capitol. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Excellent. Well, again, I'm Lori Steiger with the Woodbury Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to all of you who came out today. This is really important, and I hope that you found that this is a great use of your time. Again, we appreciate you guys being here. Mark, thank you. As the candidate said, you knocked it out of the park, so thank you. To our candidates, thank you to each and every one of you who are doing this, who are putting yourself out there to campaign. I tell you what, I do not have the skin as thick as you guys, so I do have the utmost respect for all of you. I think you said it very well. There's not a bad choice here, but now you can make a more informed choice. And to those of you that served in the military, thank you for that. With that, we did tell the candidates that we have a hard stop at 4:30. It is about 4:02 right now. The candidates will be here up until 4:30, no later. So if you want a little opportunity just to talk to them individually, they will be around until then. At 4:30, they get to leave. So let's be respectful of their time as well. Thank you all for being here.